Long Obedience in the Same Direction by Eugene Peterson.
Great. So the late great Eugene Peterson, I think everyone will know him from the writing of The Message.
Yeah.
Talk to me about A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. What's the premise of the book?
Well, confession first. I love Peterson. I like his use of words, and for me, the message is wonderful as a devotional tool. It's helpful as an illustration, and it should be in our library of versions of the Bible that we use. This book for me was life transforming because it helped me put language to just keep going. So the premise is it's written around the Psalms of Ascent. And Peterson works his way through each of the different Psalms of Ascent to illustrate the journey that we do of life and how we don't just do life and get to heaven, but actually in the journey of life, we find heaven on earth. We find those moments of the kingdom illustrated in the journey that allow us to do the journey well. But for me, it also illustrates the big piece in ministry, that in ministry, just keeping turning up, just keeping doing the right things, repetitiously doing the right things ultimately brings the point of you achieving what it is that God wanted you to achieve. So, sometimes we're looking for the flashbang moment in our lives, or and then we got our breakthrough and everything was brilliant. But I think most of the times I got up again and I read my Bible again and I prayed again and I was open and honest in the life of community that I'm a part of again. And I got something wrong again, and those I'm in relationship with helped me to see that and then to bring change. And then I got up again and I read my Bible again and I prayed again and I lived in the community that is the church again. And I kept just walking the next part of the journey. And rather than going, right, what's next? Like, that's my get out of jail for what's now. Because a lot of what's next is going to look like what's now, because the cycle of life occurs. But actually, it's pushing through and stopping ourselves, allowing our busyness to dictate the journey that we walk on. Because he wrote the book in 1980, before social media and before Netflix and before mobile phones. And I think if he'd had another crack at it nowadays, he would write a probably more pointed book, because I think we've allowed these things, these phones and this stuff to dictate a lot of how we live. And the power of those Psalms of Ascent is these people on a journey. They've left behind their day-to-day. They've, on these occasions, they're journeying to Jerusalem, and the journey and the conversations of the journey, they're it. They camp at night, they tell stories and sing songs and do community. And there's not a right, now I'm off to do this thing. Actually, it's just the journey to the place of worship, from the place of worship to the place of work, back to the place of worship, back to the place of work and community. And so for me, it's the beauty of that. And, he would talk through things like providence and perseverance and nurturing things, in that instant world, the idea of nurturing something for a time in order to bring it to maturity before we deliver it. We're looking for, you don't nurture a tweet. It gets blasted out and it's gone. And the busyness of life often means things are out there in the rush. And I think there's a space where we've got to go, oh, slow it down. What's happening on the journey of your life, not just let me tell you the highlights, because I'm too busy to talk to you about the journey. So I'll just give you my highlights, and thanks so much.
I think there's something to be said for, like you said, just keep showing up.
Mm.
and keep doing the things. I mean, we say things in. I think it's probably the kind of modern Christianity. We'll say things, things that are true. We'll say, God loves a cheerful giver, so don't give unless you feel, unless you feel cheerful to give. And you say that's great, but the next level up from that is to say, what do you do when you don't feel it?
Mm.
And you need to have practices in your life like giving or
Yeah.
prayer when you're not feeling it.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta you gotta come to church on your worst Sunday,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
not just your good days, because the point of long obedience is that you get through. So, on the worst Sundays of our lives, we've turned up at church. Now, we might have raised our hands and wept as we did it. And, we might have just had to sit down and just go, boy, I ain't got this in me. But we turned up. And we kept serving because we didn't go, I'm too broken to serve. One of the New Testament words for serving it is the word therapy. And we would talk about that in our local church. And, Glenn would say, hey, listen, serving is healing. It's where we get the word therapy from. Actually, in the midst of my pain, there are others that I can serve. And it might not be that I serve with my pain, because as leaders, you want to think that your pain is of value to someone else. I might just serve them while I'm in pain, doing something totally different. So I turn up. We give when really we could afford. I could really do with that extra 10% back this month. It's only 1 month, Lord. And yet,
yeah,
what we're
yeah,
saying is just no. I'm just going to keep. I'm just going to keep turning up. I'm just going to keep doing it. The main reason people get a promotion at work just kept showing up,
yeah, yeah.
and people trust the people who keep showing up.
Yeah, because I think it shows that there are things more important than how you feel at the time,
Yeah.
and I think there's certainly something. I think there are these unfashionable words that I think are becoming more and more important. Words like obedience. Things that don't feel quite so flashy, but they're really, really important. In the life of
Really.
every disciple,
Yeah, yeah,
obedience.
yeah.
Whether you feel it or not. Just keeping going, like you said, keep giving, you keep serving, um, you keep with your, private devotions, those things
Yeah,
that because it's those things that see you through
yeah.
those kind of times when when you're not feeling it, and like you said, it's those things that, like with the promotion, when you carry it on a long time, you actually look back and realize just how much it's impacted you and who it's made you become really as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, fascinating. I think that sounds like a great book, and obviously you said written in 1980, so
Mm.
not a recent book, but still probably a timeless one, seems like.
Yeah. And then I think that they did a re-release early 2000, and they're probably ready to do another one because it speaks to our society, because it is a fundamental issue of value, and we try to get value in the doing. Humanity's always done value in the doing, and it's not. It's value in the being, and that fundamental principle just gets undermined throughout the book. So really worth a read.